What is happening? So, I am going to take a deep dive into female fat loss. So, anybody watching this, if you think that fat loss is the same for men and women, it really isn't. And I'll probably do this video in two parts. It is quite a deep, nuanced topic. Even a lot of coaches and a lot of trainers are unaware and oblivious to a lot of things when it comes to female fat loss. Even myself, I've really took the time to study and research this topic in particular. Obviously, of course, I have a lot of female clients too, and any potential future female clients, this is something that really is going to help you understand the process of achieving optimal fat loss. So, the first thing I'm going to talk about is something that I think a lot of people don't realize. Maybe even any girls watching this, maybe you don't even realize it yourself, but your menstrual cycle can play a massive part in how you achieve optimal fat loss. So, the female menstrual cycle can be broken into two parts. You've got your follicular phase and you've got your luteal phase. So they last 2 weeks each. Ovulation takes place on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. So on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle, females are at their strongest because their testosterone peaks on the 14th day of ovulation. And typically what you'll see is girls, you'll find that you'll be your strongest in the gym, you'll have your most energy in the gym, and you'll probably hit PRs, and that's when you'll perform at your best on the 14th day of your cycle, ovulation. Obviously sex drive, libido's through the roof at that point too, obviously for procreation purposes, men take note. But in all seriousness, no, girls, you need to understand as well that your strength is going to really vary throughout your cycle. I've observed this even with female clients I train. And I think a lot of trainers need to know that there's going to be days where your female client is going to come in and their energy's not going to be there, their strength's not going to be there, their coordination's not going to be there, their mood might be impacted, and you have to be empathetic and understanding of that. You can't just be like, fuck's sake, Sharon, come on, like, you were so strong the other week there, why are you so weak today? Like, what's happening? You need to understand that, particularly towards the end of a female menstrual cycle. So the last 2 weeks, which is known as, like I said, the luteal phase, that's where females, like girls, your strength is going to dip, and in some cases very significantly as well. Now, the topic of this video, of course, is fat loss. So what is really the key point in all this? The key point is this: any girls watching this, you cannot measure your fat loss on a week-to-week basis, because your hormonal profile is going to change on a week-by-week basis. For instance, in the luteal phase, your metabolic rate will increase by at least 100 calories, even upwards to 300 calories. That's why you get mad cravings the last 2 weeks of your cycle. And what I would typically do with female clients is, my strategy would be this: if the cravings are really getting out of control, we just don't diet. We up our calories to maintenance calories. Maybe add 3 pieces of fruit. Each piece of fruit contains 100 calories. We just focus on maintaining what we've achieved, and just going on maintenance calories rather than aggressively dieting and aggressively trying to achieve fat loss. I will say this: the first 2 weeks of your menstrual cycle, you can go all out and really strive for aggressive fat loss the first 2 weeks, because think about it, it makes sense to do it the first 2 weeks, because that's when you're going to be at your strongest, your energy's going to be good. It would be very hard to try and start it at the end of your menstrual cycle, whenever you're at your weakest, your energy is at its lowest, and your cravings are at an all-time high. Now, of course, listen, I'm no expert in the menstrual cycle. I'm just a personal trainer and an online coach, and this is just me sharing my own research on the topic, and every girl and their menstrual cycle is different. So just take that into consideration as well. Any coaches watching this too. But for the most part, the first 2 weeks, what I would do with clients is we can aggressively achieve fat loss and really go after it. The last 2 weeks we can taper off and revert to more maintenance calories, because the reality is being in a calorie deficit aggressively pursuing fat loss for 4 weeks often is not realistic, achievable, sustainable, and really practical. And I am about sustainable fat loss, and it makes more sense to successfully diet for 2 weeks and then revert to maintenance calories versus maybe aggressively trying to pursue fat loss for 4 weeks and maybe, you know, being really inconsistent and actually either slowly making progress or even worse, reversing your progress and stalling. The way I see it, it's more sustainable if you can achieve fat loss for the first 2 weeks and then maintain that the next 2 weeks and then boom, go after it again at the start of the next cycle. And in terms of tracking your progress, girls, measurements and whether that's hip, thigh or waist circumference and weight, the best way to track it, I would say, would be on a monthly basis rather than weekly. So for instance, compare your weight week 1 of month 1 versus week 1 of month 2, if that makes sense. And again, compare your weight or measurements at week 3 of month 1 versus week 3 of month 2. And yeah, I think that is a more realistic strategy to implement rather than be fixated on weight on a weekly basis. A few other wee things, because I wanted to sort of address the menstrual cycle first, because I think it's something that a lot of people overlook, a lot of coaches overlook, and I hope that really has been helpful and informative for girls and for coaches too. Because see for men, we have it easy in the sense that our hormones more or less stay the same, bar a couple of wee fluctuations here and there, but our hormones for the most part stay the same. We don't have to deal with the same sort of mood swings, the same sort of up and down in our energy, our coordination, our balance, our strength. So other things relating to female fat loss would be prioritizing protein intake. Girls, you have to up your protein intake if you want to achieve fat loss and maintain your muscle and even add muscle. That would be 30 grams of protein per meal. Making sure you eat healthy fats, you know, your omega-3s. That would be avocados, oily fish, extra virgin olive oil, avocados, and healthy carb sources as well, depending on whether you're on a low carb diet or you're eating mixed diet. Of course, carbs that are good. Good sources of carbs would be nutrient-dense carbs, slow digesting, non-starchy carbs, your vegetables, of course, green leafy vegetables, sweet potatoes even, and things like rice as well are often good. I would typically stay away from bread and rice. They're not a particularly great carb source. They're devoid of a lot of nutrients and I don't really see them having much merit really. Other things relating to female fat loss will be prioritize strength training. So girls, this is an important point. 80% of your training should be dedicated to strength training. If you really want to achieve optimal fat loss, you gotta be strength training. For body composition purposes, it's the best bang for buck. Focusing on your compound lifts, your squat, deadlift, bench press, overhead press, and I would add a fifth one in there, not just for girls, for men as well. A lot of this is also applicable for men. The barbell hip thruster is a great movement for developing lower body strength, obviously developing the instability of the glutes. Romanian deadlifts as well is a great one for developing the glutes as well. But again, this is not a place for men too. I do hip thrusters, I do Romanian deadlifts. They're both great assistance exercises for the squat and deadlift. Other key things when it comes to female fat loss in particular would be things like giving yourself time to achieve fat loss in a sustainable manner. So I would honestly say, if you really want to get in shape for something, whether it be a holiday, whether it be a social event, whether it be a wedding, if you're getting married, give yourself, honestly girls, 20 to 22 weeks of, like I said, dieting, the same way I talked about earlier. 2 weeks of aggressive fat loss, 2 weeks of maintenance, and that is essentially calorie cycling, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about. So calorie cycling is a great strategy I implement, not just with women but with guys as well. The days that you train, you should up your calories. The days that you're not training are a great way to create a calorie deficit and achieve fat loss. And you'll find that's a much more sustainable method than simply employing a straight deficit. And just, for the most part, I've just found straight deficits that they can be effective, but you need to be very disciplined, very strict to do them. And I think from the vast majority of people, doing calorie cycling is a more sustainable method for fat loss. And I suppose, just to finish off, really, that's really it. Again, like I said, a lot of this also applies to men, or the menstrual cycle, of course. But everything else really does apply. And, you know, obviously girls think, oh, I've got stubborn body fat, my hips, hamstrings, back of the legs, what do you call it, lower belly, stuff like that. Listen, be persistent, be consistent, and that stubborn body fat will melt off, trust me, over time. But you have to be consistent, persistent, like I said. Aggressively diet for the first 2 weeks, maintain for the next 2 weeks, continue that. It's a much more sustainable manner. Do your strength training, optimize your protein intake, eat your healthy fat sources, and always measure and track as well, like I said. So girls, I hope that has helped clarify things. I hope it's been informative. I hope it's been helpful. Again, not just girls but guys, hit me up anytime if you need any guidance when it comes to that training. Even just if you're looking to have a chat, especially during the current situation, the current time, we're all experiencing the same hardship, and it is a difficult time. So again, I'm here. I'm always available. I'm always on Instagram. Reach out to me, DM me, whether it's to do with training, dieting, or if you're just looking to have a chat. So thanks for watching, and I appreciate it. Love you all.